Our passage from John is the first of seven I am statements that are made throughout the book of John. And it's a fitting passage for the first week of the month because typically in church, this is when we do communion. And it fits very, very, very well with that sort of theme and that sort of that type of service. But this is Jesus is making a statement here about himself, about his identity, and really what he does for the world. And that really is the point here. Is Jesus is telling this crowd what he does to the for the world and what happens when a believer comes and believes in him. And in this case, Jesus has just gone and he has performed this miracle on the other side of the Sea of Galilee, where he fed the same crowd, 5,000, plenty of bread and fish, so that they were all got full from just a handful of loaves and a couple fish. And so they have seen this miracle, and when they saw that miracle, it says in the scriptures that they wanted to make Jesus king. And the reason for that was because they could very easily see that Jesus had done something that was very similar to a miracle that Moses had performed. Moses performing the miracle of bringing manna down from heaven so that the Israelites could eat while they were in the wilderness. And so they were kind of seeing that and connecting the dots, and they kind of went, okay, this Jesus must be some sort of great prophet on the same level of Moses, and in the times that we're living in, that great prophet would have to be the Messiah. So let's go and make this individual king. And so Jesus kind of runs away, and now here we are in this sort of scene. And we can kind of see in this scene that the crowd really hasn't gotten the kind of the point of the miracle that Jesus did, and the point of Jesus' teaching. They followed him because he fed them, and they're hoping that he'll feed them more. And they're thinking kind of physically. They're thinking in kind of that more sort of earthly sort of way. Even the act of trying to make Jesus king didn't have anything to do with the kingdom of heaven. It had to do with the restoration of the kingdom of Israel. They were kind of thinking that we could band together behind Jesus and maybe overthrow the Romans, and now we will be able to have our own kingdom with him in charge. And that's not at all what Jesus had come to do. And Jesus here is kind of correcting their sort of thinking by kind of further going along with this sort of idea of what the miracle he had just done in Moses giving manna from heaven. And Jesus points out a very important fact here, which is that truthfully, Moses didn't actually give manna to the Israelites. He did not call down manna. It wasn't an act of him. It was an act of God. Moses was just sort of an instrument for God to perform that sort of miracle. And there's a similar miracle that has been performed here in Jesus' own coming. His own appearance on earth, and the big sort of point that he wants to draw them to is that they shouldn't be focusing on the bread that he's given them or the manna or anything like that, but on what truly they are truly hungry for, which is a sort of spiritual renewal and a restoration of a relationship with God. And to satiate that hunger, Jesus is the bread that does that. And that's the point at the very end of this verse that Jesus is getting across, that being the bread of life means that he can fulfill that spiritual hunger and make it not just like temporarily filled up, like how when we eat, we're full for a period of time, then we get hungry again. But in this case, actually satiate that hunger permanently. And that's the point Jesus wanted to get across, that when you believe in him, you will be satiated hunger wise permanently. Now, that is, of course, something that applies to us ourselves. Our own spiritual hunger can be and is fulfilled by Jesus when we believe in him, when we give our lives to him. So that is really what is kind of at the heart of this passage, and really is what is at the heart of our faith. And it is something that we can sort of take comfort in, and know that when we come to Jesus, we can have that hunger in ourselves filled. That spiritual hunger can be satiated, as we believe in him and have our relationship with God fully restored. Amen. And now I'd like to invite you all to join me for our last worship song today.